Welcome on board the Richplanet starship, broadcasting from somewhere high above the Earth. I'm Richard D. Hall, and earlier this month I took a trip down to the surface of Earth, where I attended the Leeds 2010 Exopolitics Conference, and I was honoured to meet Professor John Searl, inventor of the SearlFX generator. Welcome to the Richplanet starship. I'm Richard D. Hall, and I'm extremely excited today because I have with me Professor John Searl and Fernando Morris. And Professor Searl is the inventor of the SearlFX generator, which I am fascinated by. And we watched Bradley Lockerman's fantastic film last night, which charts some of the life of John Searl and explains your invention. And today we're going to actually go into some detail of that because I have a background in electrical engineering. I graduated in electrical engineering in 1990 from Newcastle University. So I've got some interesting questions that I'd like to ask you. So, John, can you just tell us about the dreams first? Because you derived some of the information from dreams.
That's correct.
Can you start by telling us about that?
There were two different dreams, but both are related.
Mm-hmm.
First one showed you the mathematics to use and what's going to happen if you don't get this technology out of the field. The thing is, what he's saying is that if you don't, then all life is going to end in due time, much sooner than expected.
Right.
And what he's saying that you're going to be developing a very great pressure and force with this gigantic steamroller coming towards you.
Right.
So at that point, you just wake up screaming because you see you're going to be crushed.
Right.
But basically, the illustration is a game called hopscotch.
Right.
Every child mainly had the luck of playing it. And there was three squares, vertical, two horizontal, one vertical, and two horizontal. The pebble was always in square 3. Because as a child, I didn't know what that meant. But what happened is that every time the dream was exactly the same, always the same. Your left leg is on the ground, your right leg is up in the air to cross over 3 into 4. I always wondered why this happened. And then the second dream also is showing you some sort. It showed a very long ladder going to the loft that you went to every night to get bales of straw to rebed the hens, so they always had fresh straw every night. On this occasion, the height of that loft is many times higher than normal. When I enter, instead of bales of straw, we have this circle of the straw with lines, straw going out like spikes of a bicycle wheel. And then suddenly it catches fire, and I'm in the middle of it, because I wake up screaming.
Right.
And what it's all saying as time went on is that, A, you're going to be involved with two distinct objects. That is a power system and a flying system.
Right.
Then, of course, another thing it said, everyone was disappear. The one who disappeared was me. The records, school records, say he disappeared. And then when I checked the date of that school, then I checked the date I entered the naval school, there are 10 days missing with no explanation.
Okay. Now, I'm just going to summarize, because not everyone who's watching this will be aware of what the machine is. It is a machine which produces electricity with no physical fuel source.
Then itself.
Yeah. So it appears to be getting power from an invisible source.
But no, the source in the first place is in the rare earth itself.
In the rare earth
yeah.
element.
We have these extra band of electrons,
Right.
which nobody can explain why
Right.
these rare earths behave in this manner.
Right. And are they extracting those electrons from the surrounding environment then?
Yes.
Right,
yes.
so they're pulling electrons, and do those electrons get turned into photons then throughout the generator?
Well, what's happening is that well, first of all, the SEG is a converter
Right.
of existing energy all around us. And that energy we can actually feel as temperature, body temperature, which
Right.
is why when John tried to get a hold of the SEG, his hands got very cold.
Right.
Anything that is at the atomic level,
Mhm.
vibrating, electrons moving about, all that chaos, that's a source of energy. So the SEG is a converter of kinetic energy that we all feel
Right.
all around us.
So is the device destroying any matter, any mass?
That's the beauty of the SEG. It doesn't destroy anything.
Right.
It's sort of like taking water from a dam.
Uh-huh.
Are you destroying the water that's coming in? And what's coming out, it's still the same. The difference is there's kinetic energy, and with the SEG, it utilizes it.
Right.
It makes a coherent, useful electrical current.
Okay, thanks, Fernando. Now, I want to first go into the materials and the physical structure of the device, and then I want to go into the operational side. Okay, an explanation of how the magnetic fields and if there are any electric currents in there. Firstly, the materials. There are 4 materials, John. Yeah.
Right.
Now, we've got copper, which is a conductor. Yeah. You've got, I believe, a magnetic material. We've got the rare earth. Is it the rare earth?
Teflon.
Teflon is the.
Teflon or dielectric to help regulate the flow.
That's the 4th one.
That's the
The
third.
3rd one. And
The
then,
fourth, is the innermost, is neodymium.
Okay, so if we go out from the centre, because we've got a solid ring in the centre, and then we've got the rollers, and they're made of the same material. Yeah. So from the centre, let's go out and explain the materials. You've got the first one is
The most dense, and that's neodymium.
neodymium.
That's the reservoir of electrons that go
Right.
there, just like a dam has a reservoir of water.
Then the next layer.
Then you have the dielectric. Think of that as the dam, what holds back
It's
the
like a dam. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Okay. Then we've got
the magnetic,
right.
which makes the whole thing work.
So it's
just like a generator.
A magnet in the shape of a ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've got the copper. Is that
The copper, right?
Copper.
The
And that's
conductor.
where the electrons are emitted from, and the eddy currents develop as well.
Right. And I believe the magnet has to be magnetized in a very specific way.
Yes.
So does it, when you manufacture the magnet, does it start off as a magnet, or do you have to magnetize it?
It's a blank.
It's a blank.
We magnetize it in a unique fashion, in a way that that is not done by the industry.
Right.
So it's a unique process.
So where is the north and the south in the disc then?
But the north is normally, if you stand it up at the top,
Right.
south is down at the bottom of the wave.
Right.
The bottom half on an analyzer, you see, is compact, very dark, and very little darkness in the top, the north
Right.
side. So the rollers have something to roll out. Well, they float on that.
Right.
Just a bit.
So am I right in thinking that the rollers have the identical same 4 materials throughout
Yes,
them,
yes.
you know, as from the centre outwards, right? Now, am I right in thinking that you've got north, south, north, south, north, south 4 times throughout that?
It's all north, south. It's just that there's variations, sine wave type variations,
Right.
throughout its periphery.
So it's not, the rollers are not north at the top and south at the bottom then?
Oh, yes, they are.
Oh, they are. So do you get, for example, is the roller made of four parts that are put together? 4,
Eight of them.
8,
8 segments makes a roller.
right? And does each roller have a north and south, north and
Yes,
top?
they do, but they have variations, which is the
within-
waveform we're talking about.
Right. So it's a very special type of
So that-
magnetization then. It's not,
It's very special. Yes, every
Right.
segment, 8 segments, are individual magnets,
Right.
magnetic devices.
Yes.
They have information printed on each one.
right?
They're not only magnets, and through the centre is a monopole that holds them together.
Right.
Now, normally, the fields pull each one too tight,
Mhm.
so we have to, on one side, the face of each segment, we have to put another wave on that gently eases it off the one below it.
Right.
So that eases it.
So are all 8 of the parts that make up the roller, are they all identical or are they all different?
They're all identical.
They're all identical, right? And is the central part made up of 8 slices as well?
No,
That's
it's
just
just
one.
a single.
It's a
Think of
single.
that as the fixed standard,
Right. Right.
but it does have a type of waveform.
Right. And let's just go on to the operational side of it, because will it work with just the central core and one set of rollers? Will it produce?
They will all spin, and of course, if you bounce a coil with a bulb to pick up that energy, it will light the bulb.
Yeah, in theory, you can have one roller going around, but to make
one single roller.
One single roller, and that'll be enough to demonstrate the Searl effect, which is
Right.
the objective of our company, Searl Magnetics.
Right. Good. Now then, let's just go on to the operational side. Now that we've had a look at the materials, every electric motor works on using the Lorentz force. Yeah, that we know of in electrical engineering. Okay, you have Fleming's right-hand rule,
Sure.
where you have a current at right angles to each other.
Sure.
So you've got the current, you've got a field.
Sure.
First finger field, second finger current, thumb. It moves that way. You have to have the two, and it moves that way.
Of course.
Now, is there electric current in this generator?
Definitely, and you can use those right-hand principle. Right-angled vectors on the SEG. The electric is from the axis radially out. The magnetic is, vertically, and velocity is the circumference.
So the electric current is going from the center,
from the
very
center and radiating out.
outwards in all directions.
Correct.
So that's a bit like a Faraday disc then, like a monopolar generator.
Yeah. So from a technical perspective, the SEG is legitimately a motor or a generator, depending on your mode.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
Right.
you have to bear in mind, in normal generation, that the electrons are all at random state. This unit don't allow that. It brings them into a uniform, which means now the power moving through like a diode through the system is very compressed and it's very powerful, which a normal generator that does all the time random all the way through the system. So you generate heat. When they're compressed like that, the electrons can't bang about. They're tied like a load of trucks traveling in one direction. So you don't get this loss of energy from the generation.
Right. You have to make a distinction between John's technology and normal tech that we're used to. At the atomic level, you see a lot of random process taking place, which creates heating and all that.
Right.
The SEG technology is uniform.
Right.
In other words, it's coherent, vibrating, directional. You don't have the chaos.
Right.
And that's the difference.
So when the electric current reaches the outside of the inner ring, how does it go through the rollers then?
We're dealing with a different kind of electricity here.
Right.
We're all used to the single electron that acts like a particle bouncing around, kicking around. And, it accelerates, stops because it comes across an atom or something. It accelerates, stops.
Sorry, just a second.
You've had a few military.
Yeah, I've noticed. I have. Really. Can you turn
I think they're
John's
onto
mic
us.
down just a tiny bit?
I think it'll be okay, Terry.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Like a drink, John.
We're not clipping it. It's not clipping, is it?
An occasional word. It's just a tiny bit too loud. It is, isn't it?
I like make clear here, as the electrons come off the plate on the back of the
We
road.
have too much noise outside. We're going to wait.
Yeah, I just give you an idea.
You must have seen my 9/11 talk.
He's mangling the best part, too.
I know. It's all right. Right. Let's go.
Right. We're talking about the electric current being different to what we would normally think of electricity flowing down a single wire.
Right. Conventional electricity utilizes an electron, but with the SEG, it actually forms a pair of electrons or a boson.
Right.
And you still get the electric currents and all that. It's just that it behaves more like a photon. And when it does exit the machine, it splits up again, and you see a little bit of a halo because photons are being emitted.
Right. I have interviewed a guy who has written a book all about photons and electrons, and he believes that an electron is basically a photon in a double loop.
Right.
So that's where you've got this distinction between matter and energy. You know, the photon is energy with no mass, whereas the electron is mass. And you know, so that at what point are we creating photons? Where do the photons emerge?
Between material layers,
Right.
using the a Hall effect.
Right.
And that's how electrons are compressed. And once they become a pair of electrons, it becomes a different entity. It no longer behaves like a normal electron. It behaves more like a photon. And therefore, you have high velocities, whereas normal electricity that you have here it has a drift velocity of a fraction of an inch per second and creating a lot of heating with the SEG. By the time it exits, it could be going at near the speed of light.